So as of 2026-07-09, over half of the people searching for your business online will literally never click a single link on the results page. I mean, the era of just winning the click is officially dead.
Yeah, it really is. It's a massive adjustment for a lot of people. Your website traffic hasn't necessarily vanished, but it's actively being intercepted by a machine.
Right, and we are looking at the SEO Technology Daily Report, specifically from 2026-07-09, and the data just paints this incredibly clear picture of a total paradigm shift. We are moving entirely from an ecosystem of click retrieval to an ecosystem of citation synthesis.
Exactly. The underlying architecture of discovery has just been completely rewritten. I mean, when you look at the rollout of Google AI mode, which went into full production ahead of the 2026-07-09 data sets we're analyzing, you really see a huge departure from standard query and response.
Yeah, because the older AI overviews were basically just, static array implementations, right? Like
Yeah.
retrieval augmented generation, just summarizing the top results.
Right, exactly. But AI mode functions as this persistent conversational surface. It continuously maintains conversational state memory across multiple user sessions.
And the structural shift that really stands out in the 2026-07-09 documentation is the deployment of information agents, which, I mean, that sounds super sci-fi, but it's happening.
Oh, it is. And these aren't passive algorithms just waiting for you to type a query into a box. They are background running AI processes. They perform continuous inference on your vectorized interest graph.
Yeah, they're essentially just scraping, filtering, and synthesizing web data autonomously. So if you're listening to this and you're a digital marketer, the entire optimization target has moved.
It's moved drastically. You are no longer trying to catch a human at the bottom of a funnel. You're trying to feed clean, computationally efficient data to an insomniac machine.
Exactly. A machine that is pre-compiling answers for a human who hasn't even asked the question yet. I mean, think of traditional SEO as putting up a billboard on a busy highway hoping someone drives by.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. But information agents are like having a personal shopper who scours every store in the world for you while you sleep. So the big question is, how do we market to a robot personal shopper?
Well, the challenge becomes making your data the most frictionless node in that machine's extraction path. But looking at the 2026-07-09 metrics, the concept of traditional ranking hasn't completely evaporated.
No, it hasn't. It's still there.
Yeah, the report shows 92% of AI mode answers actually feature a sidebar containing roughly 7 links. And more importantly, there is a 51% domain overlap and a 32% URL overlap with traditional top 10 search results.
Because the crawler still needs seed data, right? Like being in the traditional top 10 provides the mathematical probability of actually being included in the LLM's context window.
Exactly. But optimizing solely for that blue link completely ignores the behavioral reality of the user, which is what the SparkToro data published on 2026-07-09 confirms.
Right. That study is wild. User behavior has fundamentally decoupled from the click. They are reading the synthesized output, validating it against the sidebar citations visually, and just closing the tab.
Yeah, and if 50% of direct traffic just disappears into a zero-click interface, traditional lead generation models just break down, along with all the attribution software.
Yeah, but if I'm a business owner listening to this deep dive and you tell me over 50% of people aren't clicking my link anymore, I mean, I'm panicking.
Sure, panic is the natural reaction. The immediate concern for anyone managing a digital presence is how to attribute any sort of ROI to a zero-click citation.
But the crazy thing is we finally have the telemetry to track that now. The Google Search Console AI performance reports that were released on 2026-07-09 actually provide isolated data streams.
Which is huge! For the first time ever, impressions and clicks generated from AI overviews in AI mode are segmented completely away from traditional organic results.
Right, and diving into those isolated dashboards really reveals the mechanics of what the report calls the two-stage funnel.
Yeah, the two-stage funnel fundamentally redefines conversion attribution. In the first stage, your direct click-through rate just plummets because the LLM satisfied the user's immediate informational intent.
But your brand entity is visually cited as the definitive source of that information.
Exactly. You are establishing authoritative vector proximity in the user's mind, and it's backed by the AI's endorsement.
I mean, the behavioral flow maps out perfectly. If an LLM answers my super complex query about, say, enterprise cloud architecture, and it cites a specific engineering firm's documentation as the core source, I don't click the link right then.
Right, the immediate informational loop is closed for you.
Exactly. But 3 months later, when my company actually has the budget to deploy that architecture, my subsequent query isn't generic. It's a direct navigational search for that specific engineering brand.
And that's the payoff. By optimizing for the citation, you basically accept a delayed interaction in exchange for a significantly higher intent conversion later on.
It's all about playing the long game. And the 2026 0709 Search Console reports completely validate that behavioral mapping.
They do. Google's extraction systems are increasingly bypassing those large, generalized aggregators in favor of highly authoritative niche entities.
Because the LLM requires factual density, right? It needs low entropy statements to generate a high confidence response.
Spot on. If a smaller site structures its data to provide that density without a ton of computational overhead, the AI will bypass a higher authority domain just to use the cleaner data.
Which means we need a completely different authoring framework. The 2026 0709 report categorizes this as Generative Engine Optimization, or GEO.
Yeah, GEO is the new playbook. We are no longer dealing with a monoculture of just Google algorithms.
Right, we have to optimize for a fragmented ecosystem of LLMs, and they each operate on distinct architectural biases.
Exactly. The different LLM personalities dictate your GEO strategy. Like, let's look at Perplexity. It operates with strict Argo constraints.
Meaning it heavily penalizes unverified generation.
Yes. So it requires recent, highly authoritative sources and calculates confidence scores based on clear, unambiguous citation trails. It really values factual density and temporal freshness.
Whereas ChatGPT's architecture is totally different. It's built around conversational state memory and narrative synthesis.
Right. ChatGPT scans heavily for EEAT signals. It prioritizes the synthesis of a comprehensive narrative over just isolated data points. It's looking for semantic depth to sustain a multi-turn conversation with the user.
And then Claude diverges again, right? By mapping out those deep reasoning pathways.
Yeah. Claude has a massive context window, so it favors nuanced, logical progression and comprehensive analysis. It looks for content that explores counterfactuals and edge cases.
Okay, and then you have Google AI mode, which relies heavily on its existing knowledge graph infrastructure. So it demands perfectly mapped structured data and deeply indexed entity relationships.
Exactly. So if every engine has a different architectural bias, the unifying GEO strategy really has to be computational extractability.
Right, because if an LLM has to parse 5 paragraphs of narrative fluff just to identify a core definition, it consumes excess compute budget.
Yes, and it increases the risk of hallucination. So the authoring strategy for 2026 0709 is to structure content in a way that mathematically reduces the token prediction risk for the AI.
So instead of teasing the answer to make them click like we used to, we literally have to give away the milk for free. Just perfectly structured in a list, just so the AI credits us.
That's exactly it. You use bulleted lists, precise Q&A structures, and high-density factual clusters. You have to reduce the computational load of extraction.
You're structuring your page as a self-contained, deterministic node.
Yeah. The LLM is looking for the path of least resistance to assemble a coherent response.
So if you obfuscate the answer to try and bait a click, the AI just skips your node entirely. It extracts the data from a competitor who actually provided a clean semantic structure.
Precisely. But, structuring that content is really only half the battle here.
Oh, for sure. Because if a crawler hitting your site has to render massive JavaScript payloads just to find those perfectly formatted bullet points, it's going to burn through its compute allocation before it even indexes the page.
And that computational bottleneck explains the massive 8.8x surge in the adoption of the llms.txt file that we see in the 2026 0709 data.
Yeah, let's talk about llms.txt. It basically acts as a token-efficient parsing guide, right?
Yes, it sits right on your server and provides AI agents with a stripped-down, markdown formatted roadmap to a site's most critical, high-density content.
And it's getting easier to do. Cloudflare's infrastructure now automates the generation of this file, converting complex web trees into these flat, computationally lightweight text files just for non-human readers.
But there is a really glaring contradiction in the 2026 0709 SEO discourse regarding this file.
Oh, you mean Google's search advocates publicly stating that Google completely ignores the llms.txt protocol?
Yeah, they equate it to the deprecated meta keywords tag. They're calling it essentially a useless self-declaration.
Right, so if the biggest search engine on the planet says they're ignoring llms.txt, why on earth should anyone listening spend time putting it on their site? It seems totally counterintuitive.
Well, the discrepancy really comes down to rendering capabilities. Google possesses the most sophisticated, resource-rich rendering engine in existence.
Ah, so they don't actually need a markdown shortcut to parse and map a DOM.
Exactly. However, crawlers from OpenAI, Anthropic, and Perplexity operate with very different resource constraints and architectural priorities. They actively seek out and utilize efficiency protocols.
So implementing llms.txt is basically providing a zero-friction ingestion path for the rest of the AI ecosystem.
That's it. It functions as a VIP fast lane for secondary crawlers. A Google-only optimization strategy in the landscape of 2026-0709 mathematically guarantees you will lose visibility in the fastest-growing discovery surfaces.
Wow. And the necessity of this multi-engine optimization has also completely transformed the NLP tool stack, hasn't it?
Oh, entirely.
Yeah.
The evolution of platforms like Surfer SEO and Rankability that's recorded in the 2026-0709 data shows a big move away from simple TF-IDF or just basic semantic entity counting.
Yeah, these tools are now running reverse-engineered LLM APIs, and the mechanics of how they validate content are just fascinating.
They really are. When you author a page in one of these NLP environments, the tool actually runs a similarity check against the semantic vectors of the top AI overviews for your target entity.
So it isn't just checking keyword density anymore. It is mathematically calculating the vector distance between your drafted text and the text the LLM has already demonstrated a high probability of extracting.
Yeah, it creates this closed-loop authoring environment. You can draft synthetic text via an integrated LLM and immediately validate its extraction probability against real-time AI mode snapshots.
But, and I think this is the big warning here, this frictionless high-velocity authoring loop introduces the most critical vulnerability in the current digital ecosystem.
The collapse of the index into pure template spam.
Exactly, because programmatic SEO used to rely on spinning up thousands of localized, templated pages with just minor variable swaps.
Right, but the 2026-0709 data shows Google's rendering and evaluation algorithms are ruthlessly penalizing those traditional programmatic structures.
Yeah, the algorithms are now highly adept at detecting the low entropy signatures of synthetic template generation.
So the adaptation detailed in the 2026-0709 reports is this shift to entity-rich programmatic architecture.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
Instead of swapping variables in a static template, developers are using headless CMS stacks and graph databases. They dynamically connect disparate real-world entities.
Building relational databases that provide original synthesis, not just regurgitated data. But it sounds like we're using AI to write content, AI to optimize the content, and AI tools to track it. Where does the human actually fit into this loop anymore?
The human is the entropy injector, and that's the crucial element keeping those programmatic builds from triggering algorithmic spam filters.
Entropy injector, I like that.
Yeah, if you rely entirely on LLMs to generate, optimize, and publish the content, the mathematical predictability of the text just triggers spam classifiers instantly.
Right, so the human editor breaks up those predictable vector patterns with unique reasoning, original data validation, and non-synthetic semantic structures.
Exactly. But managing that multi-layered, multi-engine strategy requires a completely new telemetry stack.
And the 2026-0709 market data really highlights the launch of SEMrush 1 to do exactly this. Pricing around $119.95 a month, featuring this massive AI visibility toolkit.
It's a game changer because it tracks citation presence not just on Google, but across.
Pilot inside that SEMrush stack basically functions as an automated data analyst. It cross-references your token presence across different AI engines to identify a citation gap.
And it isn't an isolated platform either. The 2026-0709 landscape includes dedicated multi-engine trackers like Uber Suggest New Modules, Scrunch AI, Profound, Otterly, Rank Scale.
It's crazy. We have built an entire layer of AI infrastructure exclusively to monitor how other AI infrastructures are digesting our content.
We really have. Which brings us to the final definitive filter that's preventing the AI overviews from degrading into a complete closed-loop hallucination chamber.
Oh yes, the Google Spam Update rolling out as of 2026-0709. This has fundamentally altered the application of EEAT.
Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. It's transitioned from just manual rater guidelines into algorithmic absolutes.
Yeah, so think of ETT less like a manual review process now, and more like a weighted mathematical multiplier applied at the query level.
Particularly for YMYL queries, you know, your money or your life topics.
Right, so you could achieve a 95 out of 100 on an NLP semantic extraction score.
Yeah.
But if your brand's trust multiplier is 0.1 because you lack off-page vector proximity to known authoritative entities in the knowledge graph,
then your final calculation drops to a 9.5, and the LLM simply bypasses you.
Exactly. So EEAT is essentially the bouncer at the club. You could have the best outfit, the best keywords, perfectly formatted llms.txt files. But if the bouncer doesn't recognize your face or your reputation, you aren't getting into the AI overview.
That is the perfect analogy. You cannot computationally fake off-page entity relationships. The 2026-0709 update proves that AI overviews aggressively prioritize domains with robust, real-world brand signals.
Meaning verifiable PR mentions, academic citations, and just a demonstrable footprint as a subject matter expert across high-authority nodes.
Right. If you have that, the LLM utilizes your brand as an anchor of truth. It essentially merges public relations, brand marketing, and SEO into a single discipline.
Technical SEO like site speed, core web vitals, Clune architecture, that's merely the computational cost of entry now.
Yes, to actually secure the citation in a zero-click interface, your brand entity must be mathematically recognized by the AI as an authority.
So just to synthesize all the takeaways from the 2026-0709 landscape for the listener, this requires a complete strategic pivot.
It does. The mechanics of visibility now demand that content be structured for algorithmic extractability.
You have to embrace multi-engine GEO, utilize protocols like llms.txt to minimize crawler compute loads, and balance programmatic generation with human editorial entropy.
And underlying all of those technical executions is the absolute necessity of that EEAT multiplier. If the LLM's architecture cannot mathematically verify your brand's proximity to other trusted entities, your perfectly structured content will just remain unsighted.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is, and looking at the trajectory mapped out in the 2026-0709 data, there is a fundamental architectural reality we really have to acknowledge.
What's that?
Well, think about it. We are structuring data with markdown files specifically designed for non-human parsers. We're utilizing NLP tools to reverse engineer the vector preferences of LLMs.
Nice.
And we're adjusting our semantic structures to lower the compute cost for background running information agents. The entire publishing framework is bending to accommodate the machine.
The machine is the primary consumer.
Exactly. Which forces us to evaluate the endpoint of this paradigm. If digital infrastructure continues to evolve specifically to feed information agents that silently synthesize the internet to deliver zero-click answers,
Yeah.
are we rapidly constructing a web where human-authored content exists primarily as training data and computational fuel for machines rather than literature for other humans?
Wow. An internet optimized for robots so they can summarize it for us.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're heading.
That is a wild thought to leave on. But that is the exact reality the 2026-0709 data represents. So for everyone listening, review your Search Console AI performance reports today, verify your llms.txt configuration, and start optimizing for the citation. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.